I just realized my introduction was a bit different for this one, so I hope you're having a wonderful afternoon, everybody. Sheepdog Smokey here, afternoon, evening, or night. And I just want to say, this is a time when we're all being tested, tried, stressed. Remember to step back from time to time. When you're facing what we're going to discuss in this video, there are times when you say, okay, hold on. Let's just take a 5-minute breather. Let's walk outside, get some fresh air, and look at the sky. When you do that, your blood pressure lowers. Your breathing slows. Your thinking clears. I'm working from home. I go into town for groceries. I don't see my friends at all, except online. But I have walked outside and just sat in the fresh air for 3 to 5 minutes. And I come back to work and I find I am much calmer than I was just 3 to 5 minutes earlier. I hope that's something that helps. And that said, let's go on and dive right into the original video, which will have some semblance of an introduction when it starts. Oh, hello, folks. I saw a video earlier on Facebook. It's a family that puts out funny little videos. But it jogged something in my mind, something from my own time in college, my own time teaching. And it is something that we are starting to see more and more today, with schools not being in session, parents having a much more involved stake in education as students are home. They're not where they can just go to their teacher and ask for help. Now, while this family was making a parody version of the song Africa by Toto, based on algebra, it did prompt me to think about how I had been taught to explain something, whether it is something I've mastered or not. The topic of this song was, what is a variable? And I've had to explain this. I am not a math major. I am a history major. If you come to me and ask me about the Civil War, Revolutionary War, ancient Rome, any of those things, I am much more prepared to answer those. But with this, it is still something that I feel I could answer differently than most who are dealing with this right now. Very simply, a variable is something you don't know that you have put into a problem you're solving to represent that which you do not know. If you have an equation, 2 times x plus x equals 12. Or I'm sorry, equals 15. 2 times x plus x equals 15. You are literally trying to figure out what x is. So, we know that 2 times x is the same as x plus x. So 2 times x plus x is 3 times x. So you've now simplified a bit. Well, now you need to get the 3 out of the way to get down to x. You simply divide both sides of the equation by 3. 3x divided by 3 is x. 15 divided by 3 is 5. Therefore, very simply, x is 5. Now, students, when they're first learning algebra, they're not going to think this way. Most parents, unless they were math whizzes or math majors, may not immediately think of that explanation. I went to school to be a teacher. I was taught how to think differently because I am explaining to children and teenagers how to grasp a concept that is not native to them. So when I hear, what is a variable? Well, a variable, very simply, is something that varies. In this case, it varies wildly on every topic, every definition, every equation. It is quite literally that which you do not know. Sometimes you will see multiple variables. The Pythagorean theorem, specifically, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. You are taking a right triangle. Get that angle right. A right triangle where a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So, You can't figure out the dimensions of a right triangle without two sides. But if you know that A is 3 and C is 5, you have 3 squared plus B squared equals 5 squared. So you have 9 plus B squared equals 25. Well, very simply, you take 9 off of both sides, you get B squared equals 16. What's the square root of 16? 4. You find out that the dimensions of that triangle are 3, 4, and 5. I went to that one because that is the only one I know off the top of my head that works every time. But if you don't have the ability to cut the hypotenuse of your triangle perfectly by measuring it, so when we're doing drywall, it's not very difficult for us to hold up a piece of drywall and figure out what we need to cut. But if you're building rafters, you need to not only cut the length right, but you need to get angles right on both ends so they attach to each other. So if you know what angle you have to slice off the end so that they match up, and you know that on the longest end of each board, what the length of the two sides of the right angle are, you can then figure out the length on the longest side of the board for what that should be. You could also figure out both sides so that you don't have to figure a second angle. You just have to figure out a length. And that is what they're teaching with what is a variable. It is literally something you don't know. They're not harping on what a variable is. They're telling you what the variable is in this equation. In this equation, the variable is x. That is what you don't know the value of. Then they're teaching you the process to simplify that equation to get x by itself on one side, an equal symbol, and a solid number, positive, negative, with or without decimal, on the other. If you have a right triangle where the base is 5 feet, the height is 8 feet, well, that's 25 plus 64. That's 89 feet. I cannot do square roots in my head, but the hypotenuse, the length is the square root of 89. We walk around with a calculator in our pockets most of the time. Really wish I had seen that coming, because I would have bought so much stock in the mid-90s before all of this hit if I had known that quite literally I would be walking around with a scientific calculator. For crying out loud, my iPad has Excel on it. I can do complex calculations on the fly. Because for years we were told, nope, you have to show your steps. You won't have a calculator all the time. And now, for crying out loud, my 9-year-old niece walks around with a calculator. So, if you know the formula and the process, and you have a tool that can do the math, that is what a variable is, and that is what I was taught is you have to get away from saying, well, this is what a variable is. It doesn't matter. The variable is simply that which you do not know. What you're trying to teach in algebra is how to find out what it is you do not know. In a 2x plus x equals 15 equation, you know that you have no idea what the value of x is. But it's very easy to simplify down to 3x equals 15 to x equals 5. And that is what algebra teachers are there to teach. Now, they do it much, much better than I do. I will be the first to admit, math is not my forte once I get past simple algebra, simple geometry. History grabbed my attention and hasn't let go since. It tolerates the social sciences as far as my interests go. But I wanted to film this because I feel right now we have a lot of parents who are struggling because they've never had to be teachers. They've never had to be tutors other than the very basic of helping with homework, where they would actually have the student explain how to simplify an algebraic equation. Then they would take what the student understands about it, expound a little bit, and that was enough, because If they didn't get it, the student would see their teacher in a matter of days. Now they are much, much more heavily involved. Some of them are becoming homeschool teachers for the first time. Teachers are just sending out worksheets with a blurb from the textbook saying, here, do this, take a picture or scan it and send it to me. A lot of teachers are using Zoom and other means to be very involved with their students, and that's wonderful. But parents are still put on the spot a lot more than they used to be. So a slight deviation in your thought process can help illuminate something you don't quite understand. I'm going to post a link to the original video because it is hilarious. And I hope this was interesting. Thank you for watching. As always, please remember to like and share the video to expand the conversation. This topic should not be one where any politics comes into play, but as always, be civil in the comments. And please remember to to subscribe and turn on notifications so like this video off schedule, you will know right when it posts. Until next time, stay safe, stay smart, stay healthy, stay at home if you can, and be careful if you can't, and have a wonderful day.